Welcome to this masterclass, which is all about helping you move away from that constant I'm spinning too many plates feeling and towards a week that feels calmer, clearer, and more in control. Because if you're juggling clients, team issues, admin, money worries, and all the random things that land on your plate, it's no wonder you feel overwhelmed. That doesn't mean you're failing. It usually just means you've got too much sitting in your head and not enough simple systems supporting you. So this is going to be a really practical session. We're not just talking about overwhelm, we're actually going to do something about it. And by the end, you'll have a simple weekly tracking habit, a realistic weekly routine, a few clear decisions about what you can stop doing, some boundaries you can start using straight away, and a 7-day reset plan to help you feel back in control. And overwhelm usually creeps in when your brain has become the storage unit for your whole business. You're trying to hold everything in there. Client details, staff rotas, the I must remember list, money worries, marketing ideas, complaints, admin, follow-ups, all of it. It's kind of no wonder it feels exhausting. Your brain was never meant to be a filing cabinet. It's meant to think, make decisions, and solve problems. But when it's overloaded with every tiny detail, everything starts to feel messy and urgent. And that's the problem. When there's no structure, everything feels like it needs your attention right now. So instead of deciding what matters most, you end up reacting to whatever is loudest. So the client who messages you 3 times, the team member who always seems to have an issue, the complaint that lands in your inbox, basically the newest problem that pops up that day or that hour. And before you know it, you're constantly switching gears, constantly interrupted and constantly on. Then you get to the end of the week and think, well, I've been busy every single day, so why don't I feel like I've actually achieved anything? And that's where the frustration comes in. Why am I working so hard and still feeling behind? But the real issue usually isn't that you're not working hard enough. It's that there's no early warning system. Most business problems don't come out of nowhere. They usually build quietly in the background. But if you're not tracking a few simple numbers and signs, you only spot them when they've already become big and stressful. So it feels like staff issues suddenly blow up, cancellations suddenly spike, or complaints suddenly become a pattern. But most of the time, the signs were already there. You just didn't have a simple way to notice them early enough to deal with them calmly. So the answer isn't to do more. It's not more hours. It's not more hustle or trying to hold even more in your head. That just adds to the load. The goal is to create a bit of simple structure so your business stops running you. A few routines, a few key numbers, a clear way to choose what matters most this week. And that way, you're not reacting all day long. And when something does go wrong, because it will, you can catch it earlier, sort it faster, and stop it wiping out your whole week. So this masterclass is about going from overwhelm to being in control. But what does control actually mean in real life? It doesn't mean everything is perfect. It doesn't mean you never have problems, awkward clients, team issues, or stressful days. It means you're not guessing your way through the week. Control really comes down to 3 things. First, it's knowing what matters. You know what you're focusing on this week, and you can tell the difference between something that's genuinely important and something that's just noisy. Because when you've got clarity, you don't feel quite so pulled in 10 different directions. You've already decided what needs your attention and what doesn't. Second, it's having a simple routine for when things happen, because overwhelm absolutely loves randomness. When everything gets done, whenever you get a minute, it never really leaves your head. It sits there in the background nagging away at you. So a simple routine means certain things happen at certain times, even if that's just 30 minutes a week to check your numbers, look at the rota, follow up inquiries, or plan the week ahead. That's how you stop carrying the whole business around in your head all the time. Third, control is about having boundaries, so you're not available for everything all the time. Not because you don't care, of course you care, but constant access creates constant interruptions, and constant interruptions create constant stress. Boundaries don't have to be harsh or complicated. They can be really simple things like when you reply to messages, what actually counts as urgent, what your team should do before they come to you, and what you're no longer doing on demand. So control is really about knowing what matters, having a simple routine to keep the business moving, and having boundaries so you're not constantly on call. And when you've got those three things, clarity, routine and boundaries, you stop reacting to whoever shouts the loudest and you start making decisions from a much calmer place. So in this masterclass, I'm going to walk you through 6 tools you can use straight away to start getting that control back. And these are practical tools, not theory. They're designed to give you that little exhale feeling, like you finally got your hands back on the steering wheel. And you won't need fancy software, a big team, or hours of spare time to do this. You can start with a notebook, a notes app on your phone, and a couple of basic weekly check-ins. The point is the structure, not the tech. And even if you only implement 1 or 2 things this week, you should start to feel a noticeable drop in stress quite quickly, because the biggest relief comes from 2 things. You stop making decisions all day long, and you stop being the emergency service for your own business. And if you only take 1 thing away from this masterclass, let it be this: start using a weekly dashboard. And I don't mean a massive spreadsheet with hundreds of boxes to fill in. I mean a really simple set of numbers and signals that you check once a week, so you're running your business on facts instead of feelings. Because a lot of overwhelm doesn't actually come from the work itself. It comes from not knowing if cash is going to get tight, not knowing if inquiries are slowing down, not knowing if your team standards are slipping until a client complains, not knowing if cancellations are becoming a problem until the schedule suddenly has gaps in it. And when you don't know, everything feels more stressful. By the time you do notice, it often feels like you're already dealing with a fire. So that's why a weekly dashboard is so useful. It becomes your early warning system. Think of it like the dashboard in your car. You don't need to be a mechanic to drive a car, but you do need to be able to see the fuel gauge, the warning lights, and your speed. And your business is the same. You don't need to track every tiny detail, but you do need a few simple signals that tell you what's going on, so you can spot problems early while they're still small enough to fix calmly. So what should you actually track? Well, I'd keep it to 5 simple areas. The first one is cash. What came in, what went out, and what's due soon. This isn't about doing your full accounts. You're not trying to be your bookkeeper for half an hour. You're just asking a really simple question. Are we safe? Are we tight? And is anything coming up that could catch me out? For example, £3,000 came in, £2,000 went out, £1,000 is due out next week, and £1,400 is still outstanding from client payments. That quick snapshot tells you a lot straight away. It tells you whether next week looks calm from a cash flow point of view, or whether you need to chase payments, hold off on spending, move something around, or just keep a closer eye on things. And that's the point. You're not waiting until you feel panicked about money. You're looking early while you've still got options. Then the second area is sales. You want to track how many inquiries came in, how many quotes you sent, and how many turned into actual jobs. That's it. This is one of the simplest ways to see whether your pipeline is healthy without getting lost in loads of marketing data. For example, 12 inquiries came in, 8 quotes were sent, 3 converted into jobs. Straight away, you can ask a much more useful question. Where is the problem? Is it leads? Are enough inquiries coming in? Is it follow-up? Are people asking for prices but not getting chased properly? Or is it your pricing or sales process? Are you sending quotes but not converting enough of them? Because each of those problems has a different fix. If inquiries are low, you need to look at marketing. If quotes aren't being sent quickly enough, you need to tighten up your sales process. If quotes are going out but not converting, you might need to look at how you're presenting the value, how you're following up, or whether you're attracting the right clients. Without this, you just get that feeling of sales feel a bit slow, and then the panic kicks in. But with a few simple numbers, you can stop guessing and start fixing the right thing. Then the third area is delivery. This is where you track the jobs completed and any little issues that came up along the way. So things like complaints, recleans, client friction, missed tasks, awkward messages, or anything that made the week feel harder than it needed to. This is the area that helps you protect your reputation, your standards and your time. For example, 42 jobs completed, 2 recleans, 1 complaint about missed skirting boards. And this isn't about beating yourself up or making the team feel like they're being watched. It's simply about spotting patterns early, because one complaint might just be one of those things. But if recleans or complaints start creeping up over a few weeks from 0 to 2 to 4, that's a signal. It might mean someone needs extra training. It might mean a checklist isn't clear enough. It might mean a client's expectations need resetting. Or it might mean you're trying to squeeze too much into the time allowed. The point is, you get to notice it while it's still manageable. You can step in, have the conversation, tweak the system, support the team, or tighten up the process before it turns into a much bigger client retention problem. Then the fourth area is team. This is where you keep a simple note of attendance and performance. Nothing complicated, just a quick check-in on who's doing well, who might need a bit of support, and who is starting to slip. Because the aim is to spot people problems while they're still small. For example, attendance, 1 late start, 1 sick day. Performance, Sarah is thriving, Jade needs support with bathrooms, Tom is slipping a little bit on speed and quality. That little snapshot gives you a much clearer picture of what needs your attention. Who needs praise? Who needs a confidence boost? Who needs a bit more training? Who needs a quiet conversation before it turns into a bigger issue? And this is really important because team problems rarely fix themselves by being ignored. But they also don't always need a big formal conversation straight away. Sometimes it's just a quick check-in, a bit of coaching, a clearer standard, or someone being told, you're doing a great job, keep going. So when you track it weekly, you stop waiting until things become frustrating or awkward. You can support people earlier, protect your standards, and keep the team feeling much more steady. And finally, the fifth area is you. This is the one people often forget. You want to track how many hours you worked and your stress level from 1 to 10. Because whether you like it or not, you are part of the system. And if you're overloaded, running on empty, or constantly firefighting, the business is going to feel chaotic too. For example, hours worked, 52. Stress level, 8 out of 10. That might look simple, but it tells you a lot. And here's the key bit. If your stress level is rising for 3 weeks in a row, that's not something to brush off as, well, life is just busy. That is a business signal. It usually means something is off somewhere. Maybe cash is tighter than you realised. Maybe sales have slowed down. Maybe delivery issues are creeping in. Maybe someone in the team needs support. Or maybe your boundaries have slipped and everyone has started treating you like the emergency service again. So don't leave yourself out of the dashboard, because when you track how the business is doing, you also need to track how you're doing inside that business. Let me show you what this could look like as a real weekly snapshot. In one place, you might have something simple as this: cash, money in, money out, money due in, money due out. And then sales, how many inquiries, quotes sent, how many jobs booked, delivery, jobs completed, recleans, any complaints, team, any sick days, which team members are thriving and which need more support, and then you, how many hours worked and your stress level. And that's it. That's enough for a simple weekly dashboard. You're not trying to track every tiny detail in the business with this. You're just giving yourself an early warning system so you can see what's going on before problems grow into something bigger. And once you've got this weekly dashboard, you stop guessing, you stop spiraling. You can look at the week and say, right, this is what's actually happening. Now, what do we need to do next? And that's where you start to get control back. So I want you to pause the video in a second, and grab a pen and write down the 5 headings: cash, sales, delivery, team, you. Then ask yourself, which of these are you already tracking each week, even if it's a bit messy or it's just in your head? And which ones do you need to start tracking properly? Because the goal here isn't to make it fancy. The goal is to get it out of your head and into something you can actually use. So cash, sales, delivery, team, you. what are you already tracking, and which ones do you need to start tracking properly. Just pause the video and just make a few notes now so that you can start to cement this into how you do things moving forward. Now, tracking things only helps if you actually look at them regularly. Otherwise, it's just a set of numbers you collect and then ignore. So the key is to build a really simple weekly habit. Pick the same day and time each week and treat it like a standing meeting with your business. Friday afternoons or Monday mornings usually work well. Friday's great because you can close the week, spot any little issues and go into the weekend with your head feeling clearer. Monday is also great because you can start the week with a plan instead of reacting to the first message, problem or client request that lands on a Monday morning. The exact day doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's the same slot every week. Then during that weekly review, ask yourself 3 simple questions. First, what worked this week? What went smoothly? What made money? What saved time? What do you want to repeat? And then second, what didn't work? Where were the issues? What caused stress? What slipped in standards? What kept coming up again and again? And then third, what's next? Based on what you're seeing, what needs attention before it turns into a bigger problem? And here's the bit that stops this becoming a huge, overwhelming to-do list. Choose 1 focus for the week ahead, not 10, 1. Because overwhelm usually isn't caused by having no ideas. It's usually caused by trying to fix everything at once. So your 1 focus might be follow up every quote within 24 hours, reduce recleans by tightening the bathroom checklist and giving extra training, sort next week's rota by Thursday, raise prices for new clients, set client message reply hours and stick to them. 1 focus gives you traction. It gives you something clear to work on and it creates a win you can actually feel. Now book that focus into your diary like a client appointment, because if you don't schedule it, it probably won't happen. It'll get pushed out by the loudest client, the newest problem, or whatever team issue pops up that day. So you're not waiting for motivation, you're creating a routine. And that's when your business starts to feel calmer because you're running on purpose, not on panic. And this is where a realistic routine comes in. A weekly routine is how you stop living in reaction mode, because when you don't have a plan for when things happen, your week gets decided by whatever pops up first: the client who messages, the staff issue, the complaint, the last minute change. And that's when you end up feeling constantly busy but never properly on top of anything. Now you don't need a perfect schedule, but you do need a repeatable one. Something simple enough that you can stick to it, even when you're tired, even when the week is busy, and even when things don't go exactly to plan. The goal is to reduce decision fatigue. You shouldn't be waking up every day thinking, when am I going to do quotes? When am I going to do admin? When am I going to sort the team? When am I going to do marketing? Those things need a place in your diary already. And a really simple way to do that is with themed blocks. You're not planning every minute of your week. You're just giving each type of work a proper slot. For example, you might have a sales block twice a week, admin block twice a week, a team block once a week, a marketing block once a week. Let me break that down for you. So your admin blocks are where you stop admin leaking into every day or every hour, because when you're doing little bits of admin constantly, your brain never really switches off from it. It keeps you in that unfinished business mode. So instead, batch it into 2 short sessions. That might be invoices, messages, supplier bits, updating the diary, checking payments, chasing things up, or whatever admin tends to sit on your plate. 2 blocks means it gets done, but it doesn't take over your whole week. Then you've got your team block. This is your people and planning slot. It's where you look at the rota, do quick check-ins with your team, spot who needs support and have any conversations that need to happen. It also becomes the place where small issues get dealt with early before they turn into drama, resentment, last-minute panic or cover problems. Then you've got your sales blocks. This is when you do quotes and follow-ups, not when you get a minute, a real slot in the diary, because sales is one of the first thing that gets pushed out when you're busy. Then 2 weeks later, you're wondering why inquiries have gone quiet or why no new jobs are coming in. Sales needs protected time. And then you've got your marketing block. This is like a visibility insurance policy. It doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be a protected time. This is the time for the things that keep inquiries coming in over time. Posting content, asking for reviews, sending an email to your database, reconnecting with past clients, doing a few LinkedIn connections, and following up with people who might have showed interest. Marketing done consistently is what helps stop those quiet weeks that create panic. And here's the bit most people miss. You need to build in buffer time, because if your week is packed too tightly, the first surprise blows the whole thing up. A staff sickness, a client complaint, a job that runs over, a late finish, a last minute change. Suddenly, your lovely plan has collapsed and you're back to firefighting. Buffer time is what makes your routine realistic. It gives your week a bit of breathing space, and that's what keeps you in control even when real life happens. My fourth tool to reduce overwhelm is where the first results often come from. Overwhelm often isn't about what you must do. It's about what you're often doing by default. So stop jumping straight into rescue mode and being the default fixer for everything in your business. When a team member calls in sick, a client wants to move a clean, or something doesn't go to plan, it's easy to think, I'll just sort it. And before you know it, you're back on the tools, rearranging your day or fixing problems that could have been handled another way. So before you step in, pause and ask, does this really need me to fix it right now, or is there another solution? Could the client be moved to tomorrow? Could another team member swap? You're still responsible for the business, but that doesn't mean you have to be the first person to rescue every situation. And stop answering everything instantly. Fast replies feel helpful, but they can quietly train people to interrupt you. If every team question, client message, or small problem gets an instant response from you, people learn that you are always available. They don't need to think it through, check the system, use their judgment, or wait for the right time to ask. They just message you. And because you reply straight away, the pattern continues. It doesn't mean ignoring people or being unhelpful. It means creating better boundaries around how and when you respond. So before you jump in, ask yourself, is this urgent, or have I just trained myself to treat everything as urgent? Could this wait until your next admin slot? Could the answer already be in your team handbook or your standard operating procedures? Could the team member make a sensible decision without you? Could the client receive a reply within your normal response time instead of immediate? When you answer everything instantly, you become the shortcut. When you create a clear response system, you become the leader. You don't need to be unavailable. You just need to stop being instantly available for everything, and stop doing tasks that don't move money or quality. It's very easy to fill your day with work that feels useful but doesn't actually move the business forward. So tweaking a Canva post for the 10th time, rewriting a checklist that nobody uses, spending an hour in a group chat about something that could have been one message, sorting out tiny issues that don't really change the client experience, the team experience, or the numbers. It all feels like work. But not all work is valuable work. Before you give your time to something, ask, does this increase revenue, protect profit, improve service quality, or reduce risk? If the answer is no, question why you're doing it. That doesn't mean every task has to make money immediately. Some things matter because they protect the business, improve consistency, keep clients happy, support the team, or stop problems happening later. But if a task doesn't help the business become more profitable, more professional, more consistent, or less risky, it probably shouldn't be taking up your best energy. Busy is not the same as productive, and productive is not the same as profitable. As the business owner, your time needs to go where it has the biggest impact, and stop over customizing for difficult clients. It's tempting to bend the rules to keep a client happy, just this once, just for them, just because they're fussy, just because they complain the loudest. But every special arrangement adds another layer of complexity to your business. One client wants a different arrival window. Another wants the cleaner to use a completely different checklist. Another wants to text changes the night before. Another expects extras without booking them in. And before long, you're not running a system anymore. You're managing lots of tiny exceptions, and those exceptions create stress for your team, confusion in the office, and missed details. It's not good service if it makes the business harder to run. Good service is clear, consistent, and fair. So before you agree to a special request, ask, can we offer this without it causing confusion, extra admin, team stress, or lost profit? If the answer is no, it may need to be a polite but firm no. You can still be flexible, you can still be kind, you can still try to help, but clients shouldn't get to redesign your business around their preferences. Special rules create chaos. Clear boundaries create a business that works. So let's take a moment now to think about one thing you're currently doing in your business that you suspect isn't really helping. It might be something that eats up your time, creates stress, doesn't improve profit or quality that your team could handle, that only exists because we've always done it that way, or is really just you jumping into rescue mode. So write down now one thing you could stop, reduce, delegate, or simplify. What would happen if you stopped doing it? What would need to be in place so you could stop safely? So pause the video quickly now and write down one thing you could stop doing, what would happen if you stopped doing it, and what would need to be in place so you could stop safely. Now, write down one small action you'll take this week. It might be stopping it completely, testing not doing it for a week, handing it to someone else, creating a simple rule or boundary, or changing the way the task is done. The aim isn't to drop everything overnight and create chaos. The aim is to notice where your time is being pulled into things that don't really need to be done by you anymore. So quickly pause the video again now and write down one small action you'll take this week. And if you're going to stop doing something, you need a better something you will do. So focus on money-making activity. That means following up inquiries, sending quotes quickly, checking in with warm leads, asking happy clients for referrals, and making sure your marketing is actually bringing in the right kind of work. Because without marketing and sales, there is no business. Then focus on delivery standards. That means staff training, clear checklists, standard operating procedures, SOPs, and regular quality checks. Not because you want to micromanage, but because consistency protects your reputation. Clients don't just pay for a clean house. They pay for reliability, trust, and knowing what standard to expect. Then focus on recruitment and retention. That means consistent onboarding, clear expectations, regular check-ins, and dealing with issues early rather than letting them drift. A strong team doesn't happen by accident. It comes from giving people clarity, support, and standards they can work to. And focus on systems that reduce decisions. Templates, routines, rules, and simple processes mean you don't have to think from scratch every time something happens. You don't need to rewrite every message. You don't need to make a new decision for every client. You don't need to personally solve the same problem again and again. The more decisions your systems can handle, the less the business depends on your constant involvement. And that's how you move from being busy all day to actually building something that runs better. And my final tool is boundaries. And boundaries aren't about being harsh. They're about being clear and consistent. Because people don't know when you reply, where they should message, or what counts as urgent. Everything starts to feel urgent. So keep it simple. Set office hours for messages. For example, messages answered between 9 and 3 Monday to Friday. That doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you're not available 24/7 for every question, update, or thought someone has. Choose one main channel for any changes to your schedule. Ideally email or a form if you use one. Not text, WhatsApp, Facebook messages, calls, voice notes, and random comments all over the place. Because when messages come in from everywhere, things get missed. Your head feels full and you end up constantly checking everything. Then set a clear response time, something like, we respond within 1 business day. That instantly takes the pressure off needing to reply the second a message lands. And finally, create a simple urgent rule. For example, if something is genuinely urgent, please call the office number. That way, people know what to do if it really matters, but you're not treating every message like an emergency. These little boundaries reduce interruption. They stop you being pulled into constant micro decisions, and they help you get back to running the business instead of being available to everyone all the time. And set team boundaries as well. These are really about clarity. They're not about being distant or unavailable. They're about making sure everyone knows what good looks like, what to do when there's a problem, and when something genuinely needs to come to you. So first, define your standards. What does a good job actually look like in your business? If that isn't written down somewhere, you will keep having the same conversations over and over again. One cleaner might think the job is finished. The client might think something obvious has been missed, and you're stuck in the middle trying to sort it out. So checklists, job notes, photo examples, training, help take those standards out of your head and make them clear for everyone. And secondly, use an escalation ladder. This just means there's a simple process before every issue lands on your plate and has to be dealt with by you. For example, the cleaner tries to solve the problem first. Then the team lead, if you have one, supports if needed. Then the office makes a decision, and only then does it come to you. And that way you're not the first stop for every tiny problem. You're the final stop for the things that genuinely need your input. And third, have one daily check-in point. That might be a morning message window, a quick call, or a set time when the team can raise questions and updates. The point is to stop issues dripping through all day long. Because when questions, problems, and updates keep coming at you constantly, you never get a proper run at anything. And finally, protect your focus time, because if you're constantly interrupted, you can't do the work that actually stabilizes the business. You can't properly look at your numbers. You can't follow up sales. You can't improve training. You can't fix systems. You just end up reacting all day. And team boundaries give your team more confidence because they know what to do. And they give you more breathing space because everything doesn't have to go through you first. So here's your 7-day reset. This is designed to calm things down quickly without trying to overhaul your whole business in one go. So day 1, create your weekly dashboard. Write down the 5 categories we've covered: cash, money in, money out, what's due in and what's due out, sales, inquiries, quotes sent and jobs booked, delivery, jobs completed, any issues like complaints or recleans, team, attendance, performance, who's thriving, who needs support, and then you, hours worked, and your stress level. Remember, this is your early warning system. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to give you a clearer picture of what's going on. Then day 2, put a 10-minute weekly review in your diary. Same day, same time, every week. And in that review, ask yourself 3 questions. What worked? What didn't work? What's next? And then choose one focus for the week ahead. Not 10 things, one thing. And then day 3, add 4 simple blocks into your week. Admin, sales, team, marketing. You're not trying to plan every minute. You're just giving the important parts of the business a proper place in your diary so they don't get squeezed out by whatever shouts the loudest. Day 4, choose one boundary you can put in place with clients. It might be message reply hours, it might be one main contact channel, a clear response time, or an urgent rule. Keep it simple. The goal is to reduce interruptions and stop everything feeling like an emergency. And then day 5, choose one boundary for your team. That might be clearer standards, a daily check-in point, an escalation process, or protected focus time when you're not available for every small question. It doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to create more clarity. And then day 6, write down the things you're doing that probably don't need to be done by you anymore. The little jobs you've picked up, the things you do because it's quicker than explaining, the client extras, the team rescues, the admin that could be batched, delegated, simplified or stopped. Then pick one thing to stop, just one. And then day 7, do a quick review. At the end of the week, take 10 minutes and ask yourself, what feels better? What still feels messy? What do I need to tweak? That's it. 7 days, 7 small actions, not a complete business transformation overnight, but enough to help you feel calmer, clearer, and more back in control. So before I finish, I just want to remind you of something really important. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. It usually means you've outgrown the way you're currently running the business. What worked when the business was smaller might not be enough now, and that's not a failure. It's just a sign that you need a bit more structure around you. Control comes from simple systems that take decisions out of your head and put them somewhere more reliable. Your weekly dashboard, your weekly review, your themed blocks, your boundaries. None of these need to be complicated. They just need to be used consistently. So if you take nothing else away from this masterclass, take this. You don't need to fix everything at once. Pick one change to start with today, just one. My suggestion would be to start with the weekly dashboard and the 10-minute weekly review, because those two habits create clarity really quickly. And once you've got clarity, it's much easier to see what actually needs your attention, what can wait, and what you can stop carrying around in your head. Thank you so much for watching, and genuinely well done for showing up for your business, because taking time to step back, look at what's really going on, and put better systems in place is how you start getting back in control.